Welcome to Voice of the Vatican, our top stories. Sainthood. A French archbishop hopes to fast-track the cause for canonization of French priest Father Jacques Hamel, murdered last month by ISIS. Vatican Observatory School. 25 young astrophysicists were selected to gaze at the heavens at the Vatican Observatory for a 4-week summer intensive program. Eucharistic Congress. Brazil hosts its 16th National Congress to promote the source and summit of our Catholic faith, and organizers even penned a special song for the occasion. Cat gear. Not only can you wear your faith on your sleeve, but even right across your chest. Founder Dominique tells the story behind the Catholic clothing line Cat Gear. Fighting addiction. Headed by Cardinal Ranjith, the Church in Sri Lanka has launched a campaign to fight drug trafficking and addiction amongst youth. Mercy Friday. The Holy Father visits a refugee center, housing women rescued from prostitution, and bears a message of mercy and hope. Marian Novena. Tens of thousands attend a national novena at the Shrine of Our Lady of Knock in Ireland, with some pilgrims walking from far and wide to participate. Going for the gold. We'll feature some Catholic Olympians who know their amazing talents are truly gifts from the Lord. I'm Ashley Norona in Rome, Italy, and you're watching Voice of the Vatican, only on Shalom World TV. Archbishop Dominique Lebrun of the Diocese of Rouen, France, announced that he's ready to initiate the canonization process of Father Jacques Hamel, the priest murdered by ISIS on July 26th while celebrating the Holy Mass, when 2 armed Islamic gunmen slit Father Hamel's throat and critically injured one of their 4 hostages. The bishop says he has carefully preserved evidence about Father Jacques and believes the cause should be opened. Typically, the recognition of holiness procedure or canonization process cannot begin until 5 years after the death of a person, and the bishop of the person's place of death initiates the process. First, there's a local phase with a careful survey of the life and death of the person, and then the case is sent to Rome. Bishop Lebrun is requesting that the 5-year rule is waived in this case due to the circumstances. Since Father Jacques is being considered a martyr, there will be no need to wait for a miracle in order for his canonization to be approved. Archbishop Lebrun said, "The death of Father Jacques Hamel is the ultimate testimony of his faith in Jesus, which he affirmed to the end." Meanwhile, the Catholic charity group Aid to the Church in Need launched a worldwide campaign in honor of Father Hamel, and a total of 1,000 seminarians from 21 countries around the world will benefit from the ACN collections. ACN chose to reach out to support seminarians as a direct response to fundamentalism. Aid to the Church in Need director Alessandro Monteduro told Catholic News Agency, especially in countries where the extremist threat is the greatest, the ministers of God must possess the appropriate tools to promote dialogue and contribute to a peaceful coexistence between all religious groups, putting an end to the conflicts, and to build, quote, soldiers of faith. This summer school at the Vatican gives looking to the heavens a whole new meaning. 25 aspiring astrophysicists had the opportunity to be part of a 4-week summer school at the Vatican Observatory in Castel Gandolfo, Italy, at the observatory headquarters inside of beautiful pontifical villas. Undergraduate and graduate astrophysics students of various faiths from all over the world came together for a comprehensive course of lectures, presentations, and hands-on projects on the theme, Water in the Solar System and Beyond. The lessons revolved around water and its important role in the origin and chemical development of comets, asteroids, icy moons, and planets, including our own planet Earth. It is also a necessary ingredient for life as we know it. Recent space missions, remote sensing, and laboratory research have led to considerable growth in our understanding of the role of water in the solar system and in cosmochemistry. Students also had an audience with Pope Francis, who said the presence of multicultural scientists was a sign of how diversity can greatly enrich scientific research. And in this case, the complex and exciting activity of studying the universe, the incomparable gift of the Creator, and our own place in it. The Holy Father pointed out that the Vatican Observatory is one of the oldest astronomical institutes in the world. Pope Leo XIII established the Vatican Observatory in 1891, exactly 125 years ago, not least to confirm the Church's support for what Pope Francis called true and solid science, whether human or divine. The course was taught in English, the international scientific language, and each student presented a short paper on his or her research. There's no tuition fee for the program, and students pay their own airfare and board, although scholarships for expenses are also available. Papal interest in astronomy can be traced to Pope Gregory XIII, who had the Tower of Winds built in the Vatican in 1578, and later called on astronomers and mathematicians to study the scientific data and implications involved in the reform of the Julian calendar, which was replaced with the Gregorian calendar in 1582. As the Vatican studies the universe, let us recall the words of Pope Benedict XVI, and turn our gaze towards the sky with wonder, contemplation, and commitment in the search for truth, wherever it is to be found. The National Eucharistic Congress of Brazil is in progress right now, and appropriately enough, the city of Bethlehem, which means house of bread in Hebrew, is hosting the Congress for the second time, the last time being 1953. This year celebrates the 400th anniversary of Bethlehem, as well as 400 years of evangelization in the Amazon. With the theme, They Recognized Him in the Breaking of the Bread, the goal is to make the power of the Eucharist and missionary activity in the Amazon visible, and to show a people of faith how to be witnesses of their culture and of a living church in Brazil, with the Eucharist as the point of convergence. A special song was even composed for the Congress, which emphasizes the Eucharist as the sacrament of unity. The third stanza begins with a quote from Vatican II document Lumen Gentium, which points to the Eucharist as the source and summit from which the Church's mission flows and converges. The song also hails Mary as Our Lady of Bethlehem and the Queen of the Amazon. Per Mariam ad Jesum, through the eyes of Mary, we see her Son. This is the 16th Congress in Brazil, since the first was held in Salvador in 1933. And it aims to help Catholics understand that Christ is truly present on every altar, even though he is so often forgotten and profaned. Yet in the words of St. Maximilian Kolbe, he remains among us until the end of the world. Ephesians 6:16 asks the faithful to take up the breastplate of faith. And since not many people carry shields these days, Dominique Catalano found another way you can wear your faith on your sleeve. He's the founder of Cat Gear, a Catholic clothing line, and his goal is to help Catholics live out the new evangelization in a unique way.
Cat Gear came from three different words, actually. Catholic, cat and Catholic. Cat, my last name's Catalano, so Catalano, and I want to be a catalyst or a change agent. I was just in youth ministry, and it just came from me trying to work with some kids and getting a t-shirt going. That was almost 20 years ago, and it continues to grow. I go to conferences sometimes, and I wonder, why am I here? What am I doing? And a sale of a shirt or a comment from somebody reminds me that this is an opportunity to evangelize. And so long as I keep that as the focus, that this is an opportunity to spread the Catholic faith, and I try and keep that primary, then the other things like business or paying bills and things like that fall into place.
Some of the favorite Cat Gear designs amongst people of all ages includes quotes from saints, words of wisdom from Pope Francis and Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, as well as Blessed Mother Teresa. And of course, the original hit, which reads, "Have you talked to your mother lately?" and features the prayers of the Holy Rosary.
John Paul II, that new evangelization, and even with Francis and calling us to go out there and kind of stir it up a little bit, that it's okay to wear Catholic shirts, wear your faith on your sleeve. So it's just a way to evangelize and get the word out there.
Cat Gear clothing offers a powerful means for silent witness, especially for those who might not know otherwise how to begin a conversation about the faith.
They can't go out there and maybe say the right thing at the right time, but maybe if they wear a shirt, maybe they'll plant a seed, and maybe that will be the change in somebody's world. One guy told me he was at a hospital working as an orderly, and he had a Catholic hoodie on. He was really cold. And someone tracked him down and said, hey, we need to get a priest. Someone was in dire need of last rites.
Many groups use the custom-ordered T-shirts for fundraising opportunities and as a way to teach others about the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church.
It's using what's out there. Social media is a great way to do it, but clothes will always be a way for people to evangelize. And as long as it's in good taste and people are wearing it, you don't know who you impact. It could just be someone seeing it and never even say anything to you. It could just be a seed that was planted.
For Dominique Catalano, cat gear is more than a business. It's a ministry.
Cat gear, I see it as a business, but it's a reminder to me that it's bigger than that. And I guess it's a challenge, not only for me, but for other businesses or other ministries out there, is to see what you're doing and say, how can this also be a ministry? How can it also kind of work with the new evangelization? How can it make a difference in somebody's life? How can it help people get closer to God?
As Galatians 3:27 says, all of us who are baptized into Christ have been clothed with Christ. So, as in the example of cat gear, let us learn to always put on Christ. Cardinal Malcolm Ranjith, Archbishop of Colombo, Sri Lanka, has launched a program aimed to eradicate drug trafficking in Sri Lanka and save young people, especially children, from drug addiction. The campaign is following a plea from a Catholic school headmaster who discovered 15 students in his care involved in heroin and marijuana. In a conference, the Cardinal urged people to speak out against drug traffickers who often push drugs near schools and to call for severe and restrictive laws. The Cardinal also noted that some drugs entering the country are passed off as medicines. The Diocese sponsored a protest march for the cause, and Cardinal Ranjith urged religious leaders, police, educators, and politicians to come together to confront and defeat the scourge of drug trafficking and the spread of drug addiction. This age of addiction has been a grave cause of concern for our pastors in the Church. Pope Benedict XVI, on a trip to the UK, told the youth of Scotland, "There are many temptations placed before you every day. Drugs, money, sex, pornography, alcohol, that the world tells you will bring you happiness. Yet these things are destructive and divisive." The Holy Father visited a center for women rescued from prostitution during his monthly Mercy Friday visit. He met 20 women rescued from the sex trade who were trafficked from their countries of origin. That included Romania, Albania, Nigeria, Tunisia, Ukraine, and Italy. His monthly Mercy Friday visits have included visits to elderly priests, the mentally disabled, refugees, and priests in crisis. A statement from the Holy See Press Office said the Pope's visit to this refugee center is another reminder of the need to fight against human trafficking, which the Pope has described as a crime against humanity and an open wound on the body of contemporary society, a scourge upon the body of Christ. On the Feast of the Assumption, the Holy Father spoke out about women overwhelmed by the weight of life and the drama of violence, of women who are slaves to the arrogance of the powerful. May they, as soon as possible, he said, begin a life of peace, justice, and love, waiting for the day when they finally feel grasped by hands that do not humiliate, but with tenderness that will lift them up and guide them on the road to life and on to heaven. It's that time of year for the National Novena to Our Lady of Knock at the shrine of the same name in Knock, Ireland. This year it bears the theme Merciful Like the Father in honor of this Jubilee Year of Mercy. The novena began on the 14th of August and will finish on the 22nd, with tens of thousands of pilgrims participating. Daily workshops touch on contemporary issues, including the topics of business and ethics, addictions, film, feeding the hungry, the relevance of confession, and an ecumenical presentation on forgiveness and healing. An apparition occurred in this small rural village in 1879 when a little girl and older woman stopped suddenly as they came in sight of the gable of a little church. Standing near the gable were 3 life-size figures. At first they thought they were statues, but quickly realized the figures were moving. The girl ran home to her family that they might see what she saw and verify the vision. There was Our Lady with St. Joseph and St. John next to an altar on which stood a lamb with the cross behind. Eventually, 15 official witnesses, from young to old, saw the apparition that day, which lasted for about 2 hours. Since then, countless spiritual and physical cures have occurred at the site. Pope John Paul II visited the shrine in 1979, and today the shrine receives 1.5 million pilgrims each year. On the 15th of August, the Feast of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and a traditional pilgrimage day, many pilgrims walked to Knock from far and wide. This year's novena was enhanced by a special contribution from the Redemptorist congregation, which is celebrating its 150th anniversary as custodians of the icon of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, when the pilgrim icon visited the shrine. The annual novena dates back to 1977. Since the feast day of Our Lady of Knock is the 21st of August and the Feast of the Assumption is August 15th. Pilgrims can also visit the Knock Folk Museum, which illustrates not only the religious significance of Knock, but places it in the context of the lifestyle of the people, their traditions and customs at the time of the Marian apparition of 1879. The Knock apparition is well documented, with witness testimonies and details of cures, contemporary accounts and photographs of the apparition on display at the museum. Our Lady of Knock, Queen of Ireland, who gave hope to people in a time of distress and comforted them in sorrow, pray for us. Coming up next, we'll go up close with World Youth Day speaker and Project Rachel founder Vicki Thorne on finding hope after an abortion through post-abortion healing. And we'll celebrate faith by taking a look at some of the fascinating ways the Feast of the Assumption is celebrated in this beautiful country of Italy.
Did you like the program you just watched? Help Shalom World bring more programs like this to a global audience. Your support helps us share the peace of Christ with the world. Visit shalomworld.org/donate.
More headline news. He set a record for 3 golds in the 100-meter dash in 3 consecutive Olympics. And Jamaican sprinter Usain Bolt says his talent is a gift from the Lord. A devout Catholic, Bolt is known for making the sign of the cross before racing, and after a win, pointing to the heavens, giving the glory back to God. His middle name is Leo, named after Pope St. Leo the Great. But what's even more important than the medals he's won is the medal he wears every day. That is the Miraculous Medal. The Miraculous Medal features an inscription invoking the prayerful intercession of Mother Mary, with the words, "O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee." She's being hailed as the greatest all-around athlete alive today. Katie Ledecky broke her own world record in the 400-meter freestyle and claimed another victory in the 200-meter freestyle, eventually taking the gold in the 800, making her the first woman since 1968 to win all 3 in the same Olympics. She's the world record holder in the women's 400, 800, and 1500-meter freestyle. And before she dives off the block for a competition, this Catholic athlete also takes time for a prayer or two. Her favorite, the Hail Mary, which she says calms her. She attended Catholic school, Little Flower School in Bethesda, Maryland through 8th grade, and then Stone Ridge School of the Sacred Heart for high school. And after winning her first gold, she went back to the sisters who taught her and thanked them for their encouragement and support. Inside of Simone Biles' gymnastics bag, you'll find the usual bottled water, bobby pins, and headphones. But also tucked inside carefully is the white rosary that her mother gave her. Catholic gymnast Simone Biles has wowed the world as the 2016 Olympic individual all-around and vault champion. She's also a 3-time world all-around champion, 3-time world floor champion, and 2-time world balance beam champion. She's the first woman to win 3 consecutive world all-around titles and the most decorated American female gymnast in World Championships history, with a total of 19 world and Olympic medals. With 4 golds and a bronze in the 2016 Olympics, She has set the U.S. record for the most gold medals in women's gymnastics at a single Games. Simone has expressed her love of the Lord on her Twitter account with tweets like this one: "Your talent is God's gift to you. What you do with your talent is your gift back to Him." She has a special devotion to Saint Sebastian, the patron saint of athletes, and before big events, always asks for his intercessory prayers. May these athletes and their models of faith continue leading others to Jesus Christ, keeping close to mind the words of St. Paul in his second letter to Timothy: "I have competed well. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. From now on, the crown of righteousness awaits me, which the Lord, the just judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but to all who have longed for his appearance." Vicky Thorne, the founder of Project Rachel, has recently returned from a trip to Krakow, Poland, where she spoke to a World Youth Day audience about the ministry of post-abortion healing. She spoke to Voice of the Vatican about how to find hope and healing after the pain of abortion.
It is a ministry of healing and reconciliation for women and men who have lost children to abortion. Bishops had called, right after abortion was legalized, for a ministry of healing. And because they were confessors, they knew there was pain, but they didn't know how to solve it.
As a response, Project Rachel was born. Nearly 3 decades ago, Vicky conducted the first training for 60 priests and several mental care professionals. The media covered the event, and by the end of the following day, the story had spread all over the world. That day was the Feast of Our Lady of La Salette, the Weeping Madonna of Consolation. Project Rachel is now the official outreach of the Catholic Church in America, and this ministry of hope is spreading all over the world.
We think about the women, obviously, but the men heard a great deal, and they have different roles in terms of they might have wanted to stop it and tried and couldn't. They might have agreed because we were both graduate students and it seemed okay, but then later on it sneaks up on you. You've got the men who force, and many times they may not heal. They're very wounded. They're narcissists, and it's about a power trip. Then there are the men who find out after it happened because their friend tells them. There are the men who wonder if it happened. There are the men who almost lost a child. So there's a big variety, and we've done conferences for them. But what we need to understand is that fathers are in the chemical dance of pregnancy with the woman.
Sadly, women who have had an abortion have an 81% higher risk of subsequent mental health problems and tend to have 34% higher rates of anxiety, 37% more depression, 110% more alcohol use and misuse, 230% more marijuana use, and 155% more suicidal behavior as compared to those who have not had an abortion. The Project Rachel program is intended to reach out to women who are hurting and to offer them reconciliation and healing.
The importance of it is so great because the depth of the woundedness is so deep. One of the things that came to me at one point is for women who are seeking healing, not only from this, other things, men too, to say a very risky prayer. And it's risky because God always answers it, which is, God, I give you permission to heal me. Because often women hold this wound in their heart and it's unforgivable in their mind. This is the big sin, okay? So to help them to transition, this is a mother who lost a child in a traumatic and unnatural fashion. She's had no opportunity to grieve. She's afraid of God. She hasn't forgiven herself. There are oftentimes other people involved that might need forgiveness here, okay? So it's a multiple-step kind of process in terms of working through it. Well, Project Rachel, the gift is that you can take as long as you need. You need 10 years. There's people there who can walk with you, whether they're therapists, priests, spiritual directors, doctors, nurses, whatever, okay? And that's the importance of recognizing how significant the wound is.
To begin a healing journey, Vicky recommends seeing your local priest for the sacrament of confession and asking him for someone to companion you through the healing process. The Project Rachel website, www.hopeafterabortion.com, offers valuable resources and support for starting a healing journey. For the full interview with Project Rachel founder Vicky Thorne, go to www.shalomworldtv.org/VOV. This week, the Universal Church celebrated the Feast of the Assumption of Our Lady, when the Church celebrates her dogma that the Virgin Mary, having completed the course of her earthly life, was assumed body and soul into heavenly glory. And Italy, a devoted daughter of the Church, marks this day with a national holiday, so that throughout the country, Our Lady can be honored. In the town of Torre del Greco near Naples, the whole town comes together for a procession of a beautiful statue of Mother Mary raised high on the shoulders of dozens of townsmen. A 3-day festival was celebrated in the town of Silvi on the Adriatic Sea, culminating on the Feast of the Assumption with a procession of fishing vessels at sea, which carried a statue of the Madonna to a local church. The town's streets were lined with kiosks offering seafood delicacies and specialties, like the traditional motimbalo. And that evening, music filled the town square. And at midnight, fireworks lit up the sky as they exploded over the sea. Meanwhile, in Siena in the province of Tuscany, a shot rang out and the world-famous Palio dell'Assunta, or Palio of the Assumption, began, where 10 horses and riders race, representing 10 of the 17 contrade, or city wards. Each dresses in the color of his ward, and a pageant called the Corteo Storico precedes the race, which attracts visitors and spectators from around the world, waiting for the bareback jockeys to circle the Piazza del Campo in the center of Siena. A thick layer of dirt is laid on the piazza to offer traction, and the race usually lasts no more than 90 seconds. It's common for a few of the jockeys to be thrown off their horses while making the treacherous turns. And indeed, it's not unusual to see unmounted horses finishing the race. Before it all begins, jockeys make a special visit to a church in their contrada, and both jockey and horse receive a benediction, asking the Lord's protection from harm. The blessing ceremony finishes with the crowd yelling, "Go and come back a winner." And finally, here in Rome, the Holy Father led the faithful in prayer in St. Peter's Square in celebration of the Feast of the Assumption, saying, quote, "The exaltation of this humble girl from Galilee, expressed in the canticle of the Magnificat, becomes the song of all mankind, who's pleased to see the Lord reach down to all men and all women, lowly creatures, and take them with him into heaven." Our tweet of the week this week comes to us from our Holy Father, who's also the most tweeted public figure in the world. On his account at Pontifex, Pope Francis writes to nearly 10 million followers, "Through the cross, we can touch God's mercy and be touched by that mercy. During this Jubilee year of mercy, we pray for the strength to carry our own crosses with love, humility, and hope, modeling Christ carrying his own. And through that struggle, to open our hearts wide to receive and in turn to give his unending mercy." All week long, you can keep up with the latest happenings in Rome on our Twitter feed, which is @Voice of Vatican. And be sure to like us on our Facebook page, which is Voice of the Vatican. Keep checking our social media feeds for breaking news and information about upcoming guests and features. And we want to hear your voice too. Email your questions and stories to us at vov@shalomworld.org. This is Ashley Nerona, and on behalf of the entire staff and crew of Voice of the Vatican, I wish you a blessed week and blessed Feast of the Queenship of Mary. Saying ciao for now from the Eternal City. I'll see you next week, right here on Voice of the Vatican, only on Shalom World TV, bringing Rome to your home.